Yes, good. Here you are. So as usual, we'll just let you recover from your journey from the waiting room. You scroll through any more? Let's see people.
Got a few people still making their way back from the breakout rooms.
Still people coming back from breakout rooms. Okay. I'll just sit and enjoy watching people like Ananta in New York. Hiya.
Very, very snowy New York. We're in the middle of a big blizzard.
Okay. It's just cloudy and grey here today. Proper English. Okay. Is everybody back now, Patrick?
Yeah, that's just now everyone's here.
Just now. Okay. We've got 108. It's a nice Buddhist number of us. All right, so let's start in, shall we? So this is day 3, session 3. And in session 2, we were looking at going into transforming bad circumstances into the way of awakening. So this third section. And we looked at when the world is filled with negativity, transform all adverse conditions into the path of awakening. So really developing that sense of not being on the run from what's difficult, but developing a momentum in our practice so that we start to turn towards it more and more. And then blame everything on one culprit. And yeah, we saw that the one culprit is really ego clinging or self-clinging. And that can be taken in the sense of when you notice yourself blaming, really turn that around. Yeah. So if you catch yourself blaming anything from the government to the weather to your dog, then just be aware that the main cause, the main condition for this suffering is actually the mistaken view that we have of being a separate self and all that comes out of that. So take the blaming, which is an unhelpful mental state, and let that be a trigger for a helpful mental state, which would be an investigation of how things are, an investigation of our experience. Yeah. What I find a really helpful question for myself in meditation, but actually also out of it, is how am I creating suffering for myself now? I find that a really useful catalyst for exploration, yeah, to investigate. Yeah. It's like, here I am, I'm on my meditation cushion, the body feels all right, nobody's bothering me, it's quiet, and yet somehow all is not well. So that must be self-generated, so to speak. Yeah, there must be somehow I am creating the conditions still to feel unsatisfied, still to feel unfulfilled. So how am I actually doing that? What is it that I'm telling myself? How is it that I'm organizing my experience? Yeah. What are the conditions that I'm producing internally that mean that I'm not at ease? Yeah. So I find that a helpful question. Yeah. Okay, so this afternoon we'll meditate, but in order to make sure that we get through about half of the mind training on this retreat, I am going to put in little bits of teaching, I think, in the afternoons. So we're going to have a quick look at number 13. Be grateful to everyone. So here are, all these sort of difficult people, the people who we feel like blaming, whoever that might be, insert name here of whoever it may be for you. And not only are we, as it being said, well, don't blame them, let's turn towards the real issue. It's saying, be grateful to them. So it's really asking us to completely kind of turn around our usual attitudes and tendencies. The whole mind training is just, it's like it turns us inside out or upside down. And that turning inside out and upside down leads to awakening and the flowering of bodhicitta. But it's very much, the more you go into this, you can see why the Buddha talked about going to enlightenment as like going upstream. We're really going against the usual current of things. It's really radical. So be grateful to everyone. So what's that about? Well, I think there are two levels to this, or two ways in which we can take it. The first one is really to be opening to, or cultivating, if we like, appreciating all the benefits that we receive from others. In the Indo-Tibetan tradition, they often put this in the context of rebirth, and there's been endless rebirths, and in the course of those, all of us will have been one another's mother and father, and so on that basis we're intimately connected, and we should really, we could connect with that and therefore feel a deep connection and appreciation and gratitude. And if we can get behind that reflection, then it's very powerful. A lot of people practicing in the West won't be able to do that because our sense of karma and rebirth isn't that strong, or isn't that alive, or we don't really connect with it emotionally, so it doesn't work as a reflection. But just to cultivate a real sense of gratitude really helps this process along. When there's self-clinging, part of what that gives us is a sense of me at the center of the world. And so when I'm at the center of the world, it's like the Tibetan word for pride is nagyal. Na means I, and gyalpo or gyalmo is king or queen. So it's like I'm the one at the center of things. And if basically the world revolves around me, I feel entitled to things. And when I feel entitled to things, I don't really give full weight to just how much I'm being given, just how much my whole life depends on all of you, depends on all kinds of other beings. So really reflecting in this way, even where it seems like people aren't deliberately giving to us, is still really helpful. It's like before a session in the afternoon here, I drink a cup of Darjeeling tea. There's quite a lot of energy involved in getting those tea leaves from the slopes of Darjeeling to me, and maybe I shouldn't drink it, but anyway, I do. So just to drink my cup of Darjeeling tea, well, somebody had to make the cup, And then there were probably women on the slopes of those hills in Darjeeling, with baskets on their back, and they were out there in the sun and they were picking these things. And then it got, gathered together and transported and so on. And yeah, those women on the slopes of Darjeeling, they weren't picking those tea leaves thinking, oh, and Vessantra is going to be drinking this and that's great. No, they're feeding their families and so on. And may they be well paid for doing it. But still, yeah, my appreciation of just that one tiny thing, in my life depends on this great chain of other beings. And I can take that for granted and just sit there and drink it, or I can appreciate that. Yeah. And probably if we were to ask, those women in Darjeeling, are you pleased that there's somebody in England who just really enjoys, watching the fruits of your work? They'd probably say, yeah, I'm delighted. So when we start looking at the chain of conditions which makes our life possible, it just expands and expands and expands. And we start to realize, yeah, with an open heart, there's tremendous reason to be grateful to all kinds of people. Yeah? Especially as they're all like us, all sort of struggling with their own kind of kleshas and misunderstandings and complexities and difficulties, and yet still somehow, like our parents, they weren't perfect. They struggled with their lives, and yet somehow, they managed to give us enough of a start in life, or some people did, that we've managed to find the Dharma and get to this point, and we can all meet together and practice like this. So there's that level of things. And then there's also the level where our practice, our deepening practice of Dharma, our practice of the perfections, to put it in that traditional sense, also depends on other people. If there's nobody around, there's nobody to be generous to. Yeah. If there's nobody around who's a bit difficult, there's no opportunity to practice patience, and so on. Yeah, we actually benefit from the fact that we're interactive beings. Yeah. They bring out qualities in us. Yeah, actually, if we look back, some of the difficulties in our lives that people have caused us to grow. We've had to find resources that we didn't know we had, because of them. So we may not always feel like it, but we may be sitting quietly by ourselves and feel like, oh yes, I'm doing quite well on my Dharma life. And then we get out there, and there are these pesky other people, and they stimulate kleshas that we didn't know we had. And we don't like that very much, but actually it's a benefit. We discover where we still need to work. We discover where there's more to do. We discover where our vulnerabilities still are. Yeah. So they're helpful in that way as well. So, yes, maybe I won't say a lot more than that. Yeah, so the aim of this is that we develop an open-hearted appreciation of others. And the more we do that, the less, the more connected we feel. Jean-Paul Sartre said, hell is other people, or whatever, l'enfer c'est les autres. And actually what's the hell in that is that we're making people other. Yeah. People in themselves aren't hell. It's the way in which we separate out from them, put them out there, judge them, blame them, and very often put our own difficulties onto them in various ways. All that creates the suffering. So this is a real move out of that tendency to so this is kind of like the program for working with difficulties in terms of relative bodhicitta. We turn towards difficulties. I mean, this is really simplifying it, and as if it's, we just do this, we just do that, and it's easy. I'm not really saying that, but just to lay out the principles. We create a momentum in ourselves of turning around and turning towards difficulties rather than being on the run from them. We focus on the self-clinging that's the primary condition for us, for suffering for ourselves, rather than blaming others. We open our hearts to others and appreciate them more and more, see all that they give us, both on the everyday mundane level and as Dharma practitioners. And we gradually move in the direction of really putting them first, being at the service of life. So that's the direction we're headed, and yeah, we'll inevitably find aspects of ourselves that aren't sure, don't like the look of that, but we just have to keep exploring and seeing what really does make us happy, yeah, what really does lead to greater freedom. Okay, I'll leave that there. So let's have some time to meditate, and yeah, let's explore something about be grateful to everyone in meditation. So we start by letting everything rest. It's like putting a car into neutral, not trying to go anywhere, not trying to reverse into the past or going forward gear into the future. We're just here. Now checking in with the earth. Those qualities of stability and groundedness. And letting our posture be as centered and supportive as possible. coming fully into the body. Kindly appreciative awareness. Gathering energy and awareness in our heart center. Now we're going to do a couple of reflections. And again, not just using the rational mind, but really feeling into it, involving the body, our felt sense, our felt response, our intuition, imagination. It's really all of us can be engaged in the process. So firstly, let's take a few minutes to appreciate some of the people who've set up the conditions for us to meet and practice together on this retreat. mind could go in all sorts of directions. Doesn't matter so much what direction it goes in, whether it went down the track of the person who made the computer or the phone that we're using that enables us to see and hear one another, or whether it goes to Adhisthana, wherever it goes. Yeah. Just noticing and appreciating this great chain of sort of interconnectedness, the conditions that have to come together. How many living beings that involves. And really appreciating that. We can focus on a relatively small number of people, or we can find things widening and widening. So for instance, if I appreciate Adhisthana, I could be thinking of Lizzie and Patrick, but then there's the whole situation at Adhisthana. And then there are the people who first had the idea of getting somewhere like Adhisthana, the people who searched for it, and so on and so on. I find an ever widening circle. Okay, so that's the first of our two reflections. So just letting mind rest for a minute. Now for this second reflection, let's explore someone who causes us difficulty or has caused us difficulty, and appreciating what's come out of that. So we can take a person or a situation from the past that was difficult, just feel into what did that bring out in us? What did we learn? What quality did that produce? Or we can take someone or a situation right now and see, what is this good for? How is this person, this situation, giving us an opportunity to grow? How could that be? And if it feels too much, to find real gratitude for this person or people, can at least appreciate that they're like us. They have their own self-clinging, their own issues that they work with, their own kleshas. They're trying to be happy just as we are in their own way. Just really wishing them well. May they find the path to awakening and follow it. And when we're ready, letting the reflection go, just sitting. Finally, sharing the benefits of the practice with all beings, especially all those who've come to mind during our meditation. So thank you for that. Hopefully that reflection, the second part at least, gives us some sense, give us a bit of a feeling of how it would be to turn around the usual attitude and to get some sense of how those who are creating difficulty for us are also presenting us with an opportunity, and there's something there to be grateful for. All right, let's leave it there for now, and hope to see a lot of you for session 4. All the best till then.
Thanks, Vessantra. See you later.